Shall I go ahead?
Yes, sure, sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. It is always a pleasure and privilege to be able to attend one more webinar event on innovation, on entrepreneurship, and the impact that technology is having upon all of us. And before I proceed, first of all, a very good evening to all of you, all the distinguished panel members on this particular event, including Mr. Ramayar, Mr. Vishwas Singh, Ms. Tara, and all the other distinguished panelists. Also, a very good evening to all of you young innovators, startups, and budding innovators who are logged onto the call. I hope every one of you are hale and healthy under these very, very difficult COVID-19 circumstances. And I hope every one of you is also following the safeguards that have been advocated by your authorities, by institutions, or by the government. We are living, as I mentioned earlier, in unprecedented times. It is a simple virus that has paralyzed nations across the world. It has created grievous disruption to lives and livelihoods across the world. It has created disruption in supply chains across the country. And it has created an age of uncertainty about what is going to happen in the years ahead. It has also brought on a number of new problems that we have hitherto unforeseen. Problems like in India, the problems of urban migration, where we are a very large country. We are over 1.3 billion people. We have 1.4 million schools. We have 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have 39,000 colleges. We have 150 million young students going to be entering into the workplace. We also have 8,000 towns and small cities. We have 715 districts, and we have only 8 tier 1 cities. As a result of it, almost all the people who are in the rural parts of India and tier 2, tier 3 cities have been migrating to the urban cities in order to be able to find ways of livelihoods as well as ways of earning their daily wages. And this is not a sustainable form of growth or development for any country. As a result of which, there has been tremendous pressure put on every city, in every town that we have. And now with the problem of the migrant workers having to go back to their towns because of COVID-19 and then wanting to come back in order to earn their livelihoods, it's a devil's choice between do you save your life or do you save your livelihood. And in either case, it's between the fuel pan and the fire, as they call it, within the frying pan and the fire. That's the sort of choice that people have to make. So we are living in these very difficult times. But difficult times and crisis also brings out new opportunities that we have not seen. And one of the opportunities that we have seen here today is the role technology is playing in being able to address many of the challenges that we have. We are today faced with a virus that has created all this problem. But then if you look a little deeper, the problem is not just of a virus. The problem is also going to be happening again because of environmental pressures, because of climate change, because of emissions, because of energy misuse. And all of these are going to put tremendous pressure on potential new pandemics that may be there in the horizon, or potential new issues and challenges that we will have to face in order to deal with a burgeoning population as well as a growing economy that every country aspires for. We are a country of 1.3 billion people, and we have, like I said, 150 million young students are entering into the workplace. How do we ensure that we leverage this demographic dividend, as they call, in order to be able to create not only societal good for our country, but also economic prosperity for our country? One of the big challenges that we have is in the areas of transportation, mobility, as well as the repercussions that we have if we allow unbridled growth of these sectors without providing necessary intelligence and necessary technology in order to prevent the repercussions of unbridled growth in these sectors. And in this context, the Honorable Prime Minister's clarion call for Atmanirbhar Bharat becomes very important and becomes very relevant when we look at how do we address problems facing the nation, including the problems of mobility as well as transportation. The first and foremost pillar that he has identified is the pillar of demographic dividend. How do we ensure that we enable all our demographic dividend, which is the envy of many a country, to be able to harness the benefits of growth, the benefits of knowledge that is very required to create the solutions of tomorrow. And therefore, the Atal Innovation Mission has launched on many initiatives, some of which you heard before, of one, creating a culture of innovation within our young people, to transform them from a rote learning mindset in our schools and our universities into a problem solving innovative mindset. And we are doing this through the launch of tinkering labs at the school level and the launch of incubators at a university and institutional level, which is going to encourage a whole lot of startups to start addressing problems and challenges that we have in multiple verticals, including the transportation vertical or the mobility vertical, upon which this particular panel discussion is focused on. We are ensuring that the benefits of 3D printing, robotics, IoT devices, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality, as well as artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies are brought to bear in terms of solutions that we are going to create for tomorrow. And we need to induct our young people into the knowledge and acquisition of these technologies at a very early age and induct them into spotting problems in and around the communities that they live in, and see how they can play a role in solving these problems leveraging technologies. So we have launched more than 5,000 tinkering labs today, with more than 2.5 million students getting exposed to the latest of technologies in terms of all the ones that I talked about, so that they can start solving problems and they can become potential innovators and budding entrepreneurs as they enter into the universities. When they enter into universities, you need to have world-class incubators fostering world-class startups. That is when the students get an opportunity to be able to exercise their innovative potential, which is considerable in our country. We have never lacked for great innovators, thinkers, scientists, engineers. You see, the world is full of Indians at the helm of affairs. You have a Satya Nadella heading Microsoft, you have a Sundar Pichai heading Google, you have a Shantanu Narayan heading Adobe, you have several Indians leading various universities across, in whether it is Harvard or whether it is Stanford or whether it is Carnegie Mellon and so on. And therefore, Indians have always excelled when you have given them the ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship to expand and express their full potential. Similarly, the incubators and the incubation ecosystem in India will enable a world-class startups to come up, and every student from every university, if he or she has the aptitude, the talent, and the capability, will be able to address opportunities for expressing their innovation in the form of an entrepreneurial initiative or in the form of a startup. Now, the benefits of innovation have to reach rural India, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and they have to become hubs of innovation and job creation. If you want to do that, you need to ensure community innovation centers, which will become hubs of innovation and job creation. And therefore, the Atal Innovation Mission is setting up several community innovation centers in rural India in tier 2, tier 3 cities, so that not only they catalyze innovations which are required in the local community, but innovations which are also required in the to be implemented, which have been done from elsewhere and which is particular to the problems affecting that local community. For example, if you are in Visakhapatnam, you want to know how you can boost the fishing industry or the shipbuilding industry or the tourism industry. If you're in Goa, you also want to know how to boost the cashew nut industry and the mining industry. And you need innovative centers and jobs being created that is going to leverage the local resources and the local needs. Now, in order to create solutions which are relevant to India, and that is true for the transportation sector, we are launching what are known as Atal New India Challenges. The Atal New India Challenges are challenges which we arrive with ministries. So we have, for example, worked along with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs Development, challenges for smart cities. We have 8,000 towns and cities in our country, but we have only 8 tier 1 cities. We have identified 100 smart cities in our country. But what is a smart city if you do not have challenges and products that is going to make that city smart? Smart in terms of its transportation, smart in terms of the mobility that is there within that particular city, smart in terms of clean air and environment that is required so that people will continue to survive and we will not have such problems related to climate change. Smart in terms of transportation needs and public transportation, because we still have 22% of our country below the poverty line. We have 44% of our country agri-economy based. We cannot be thinking in terms of the United States or other advanced economies where you have 4 cars or 3 cars per family. We need to ensure that as our economy grows and as our economy prospers, as we have 250 million people plus already in the middle class and growing economy, we are going to be adding very soon, based on the government's plans and the Atmanirbhar Bharat that we're talking about, another 300 million to 350 million people to the middle class economy. Now, as this economy prospers and it grows, the need for intelligent transportation, the need for electric mobility, the need for environmental controls in the process of this development, and the need for artificial intelligence to play a role so that we can bring relevant technologies and appropriate technologies to bear in facilitating the movement of goods, people, and services across the length and breadth of the country. This is the pillar of infrastructure that the Honorable Prime Minister has talked about in his Atmanirbhar Bharat call. How do you ensure that the pillar of infrastructure, which is smart infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure, but smart infrastructure, digital infrastructure and digital highways, in addition to the normal physical highways that we have, and these are intelligent highways so that you are able to address the associated problems of transportation, growth, emission control, and so on and so forth. That is required, and that means a tremendous amount of innovation and entrepreneurial capability has to get generated in our country so that we address these challenges. This is why we have launched what are known as ARISE challenges, Applied Research and Innovation for Small Enterprises. This is for the MSME sector. The MSME sector is 70% of India's formal and informal labor force. That's what comprises the MSME sector. However, the MSME sector only contributes 29% to our GDP. We want to make sure that this sector contributes 50% to our GDP, because there is a tremendous opportunity there. And once we do that, we are going to have a self-reliant country. Now, in order to do that, we have to ensure that innovations related to transportation, mobility, electric mobility, bringing in the benefits of sensor technologies for safety in the transportation system, bringing in the benefits of IoT and computing technologies in the ability to plan for urban transportation and for large-scale transportation, and also identifying, now the COVID-19 crisis has shown that you have to deal with the safety aspect, the cleanliness aspect, the hygiene aspect of solutions which will be associated with airports, with rail infrastructure, with the transportation carriages, with the bus systems and all of that, in order to make it safe and contact friendly, which means that, you know, when we have large-scale transportation, we also need now parallel to see that epidemics and pandemics like COVID do not escalate because of safety and hygiene issues. Now, these all are challenges, but these are opportunities for startups to harness and to find solutions for. And that is the big opportunity in front of us. India is a country of 1 billion people with 1 million challenges, but 1 million challenges are 1 million opportunities for India to be able to innovate and to create solutions for, and by the help of which you are creating solutions for 7+ billion people on the planet. This is the opportunity that we have, and I'm sure this particular conference and this panel discussions that you're going to have in the next few hours is going to throw light on the various challenges that we have, but the various opportunities that we can address in leveraging technology, the pillar of technology, as the Honorable Prime Minister has said, so that the pillar of demand of 1.3 billion people, which is there, which, you know, you don't need to look elsewhere for the demand. You don't need to go to a foreign country. We don't have the same problem of driverless cars that we have in the United States. We have a problem of access to the villages, access to the infrastructure, access to intelligent large-scale transportation systems. I remember when I was in CMC as a managing director, we developed some of the state-of-the-art intelligent transport solutions for AP SRTC, the State Road Transport Corporation, for the Karnataka State Road Transport Corporations, and these were enabling the passengers with basic facilities which were missing. For example, you don't know when is a bus arriving at a particular place, at a particular stop. And we created automated systems using GPS technologies, GIS technologies, mobile technologies for simple displays to be put up at the bus stops, so that you know exactly what time a bus is coming, whether it has got delayed. You don't have to stand in the under the heat of the sun. You don't need to have overcrowding in a bus. You can do your urban planning of routing the buses through appropriate lanes and appropriate roads in order to address any particular traffic congestion or jams that you are finding in the city. Now all of these become possible leveraging a combination of computing, communication, and advanced satellite technologies to be able to come together and create solutions. Now that is a wonderful opportunity in front of all of us. At Atal Innovation Mission, we have launched more than 1,500 startups over the last 2.5 years. And out of these, 500 are women-led startups. And I can tell you some of the women-led startups are deep tech startups, which are focusing on urban transportation, mobility, and so on. So gender diversity and the ability of roping in the women entrepreneurs into the system is another big initiative that we all need to take and encourage, because they are some of the people who are able to identify with the problem. As an innovation, the quality of innovation is dependent on the quality of association and identifying the problem for which the innovation is required. The more clearly you identify the problem, the more clear and the more higher the quality of the innovation. And so we are having this opportunity, and I do hope this panel discussion is enabling every one of us to deliberate on these crucial matters, on how do we enhance the quality of transportation, of mobility, how do we bring safety into the consideration, and how do we also ensure that energy and emission control is enabled through the appropriate use of technology. And there are many challenges. For example, in the electric mobility world, battery technologies, that's a huge opportunity. The world is still struggling to find solutions for the battery technology. Charging electric vehicles across the road or the highways, we need intelligent solutions for charging them. So there is the ARISE challenges that we have launched recently, along with the Ministry of Urban Housing and Development and Smart Cities. We also had a webinar on this a couple of days ago that has identified 3 areas: Project Move, Project Clean, and Project Air. All of these are challenges that the young startups can respond to. You have the details on the Atal Innovation Mission website. But more importantly, I think transportation solutions are not only for India, but for all emerging economies. And I'm sure it is also for the advanced economies, because they are struggling with the problem of plenty. And there's going to come a time when they are going to realize more and more the benefits of large-scale transportation and urban transportation needs, which need to be addressed. In cities like New York or in California or in Atlanta or in Georgia, you have huge crowding problems and traffic problems. And if we find solutions in India, we also are finding solutions for the rest of the world. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts on this occasion. And I do wish a wonderful conference and a wonderful set of panel discussions for this particular event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramanan. That is Mr. Ramanan, who is the Managing Director of Atal Innovation Mission. His keynote gives us a very good segue to our panel discussion. Thank you so much for joining, Mr. Ramanan.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our panel today. Our panel today has Ms. D. Tara, Joint Secretary of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and the National Mission Director of the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. Ms. Tara has immense experience in urban development, urban housing, and town planning, and has worked with the urban development bodies under various capacities. Prior to joining the center as Joint Secretary, she was the Managing Director of the Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation. Ms. Tara was instrumental in presenting a revised development plan, Plan 2021, which gave a vision for New Ahmedabad. She was one of the pioneers of the bus rapid system project in the city. Her major focus has been to drive cities with greater efficiencies by using new technologies. We also have with us Mr. Rama Iyer from T-Hub. Mr. Rama Iyer is the Chief Innovation Officer at T-Hub. He is known as a renowned global thought leader in the blockchain space. He's a senior advisor for the state of Assam and on the global governing board of blockchain for Commonwealth Youth City, Malaysia. He has 20 years of experience in innovation landscape, which includes advising governments and startups, running incubators, creating global strategic relationships, and due diligence. He has also worked with telecom giants such as Nortel, Ericsson, Cisco, and Polycom, among others. We also have Mr. Vishwas Singh, who is the head of public policy at Shuttle. He has over a decade of experience in advocacy, legal affairs, as operation management, and product design. He has served in leadership positions across the mobility, digital payments, e-commerce, and intellectual property sectors, witnessing the evolution of the startup ecosystem firsthand. He has been associated with Shuttle since its inception and firmly believes that innovation can create unfathomable opportunities for citizens, businesses, and governments, ushering in the next phase of sustainable development. He's a civil engineering graduate of IIT Kanpur and a regular speaker on policy dialogues and an avid sports enthusiast. We have also with us Ms. Rakhi Basu, who from the World Bank. Ms. Basu has over 20 years of experience in the transport sector. She leads the World Bank's digital initiative in India. Excuse me. Ms. Basu has 20 years of global experience in the transport sector. She leads World Bank's digital initiative in India with particular focus on disruptive technology. Her subject matter expertise lies in transport, e-mobility, drones, shared automated connected vehicles, urban and spatial development, and end-to-end global supply chain management. Her creativity and passion for data are driven and data-driven governance has resulted in award-winning solutions in intelligent transport in Kolkata and other cities. And finally, we have with us Mr. Pravjeet Singh, President of India and South Asia at Uber. Pravjeet is responsible for our operations in Uber's operations and products in India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. For the last 5 years, Pravjeet has helped build Uber from the ground up and successfully deployed the magic of technology in one of the fastest growing and most strategic markets for the company. He has been part of the core team that adapted the global business model to India, launched multiple new cities, and led India first innovations, including scaling up auto and motor categories and building a multimodal platform. Which have both exported to other emerging markets. Prior to joining Uber, Pravjeet was associate partner at McKinsey & Co., where he advised several iconic companies to help design their digital business, specifically in the financial and consumer sectors. Thank you all so much for joining for the panel discussion today. Our topic is on how technology enablement can help urban mobility become safe and efficient. To set context for this discussion, I would like to focus on governance and agility. Governance and agility have been key drivers for urban mobility across the world. All those cities which are known for credible urban change have used technology to stay informed and stayed agile to ensure that the city is able to plan, execute, and monitor urban mobility projects in the most seamless manner. By governance, we mean how do people move? Are we aware about their commute choices and the direction in which the city clusters are developing and congregating? How do we monitor the urban mobility assets which are deployed? Are we using the most cost-effective and safe manner of transport? And how do we build accountability among stakeholders of the ecosystem, including drivers and riders, to adopt safer practices? Technology helps systems become more agile to account for changes in habits and ensure safety of commute. Given the current context of the pandemic and a new reality in which safety protocols, social distancing, and efficiency of public transportation have assumed greater importance, what role can technology play in that? We look forward to this interesting discussion. And my first question to start off would be to Ms. Tara. Given that I've just spoken about governance, and given that currently metros, buses, and road infrastructure planning fall under different governing bodies, how can a city administration and federal agencies collaborate to have centralized and coordinated planning? Ms. Tara?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, I think urban mobility, technology in urban mobility is a very, very wide topic. It's not about mobility. Actually, mobility includes why would a person move? And Is it very necessary for a person to move? That is the first question to be asked. And what has made us, create the situation? Transport is a reaction to a very bad urban planning. See, the more increased need for transport is because we are not planned this thing. Why can't we walk to school and offices? We can, right? I mean, if we had properly planned. Why should there be a motorized transport unless you want to go to exotic destinations or very, very unusual destinations? So first of all, this issue has to be questioned. Why would the people be moved? Can't we also provide a situation? So first, one of the angles which has to be looked up into the cities is urban planning angle. Okay, and quality of governance. If your education system is the same, level is the same, basic minimum level is the same across schools, then why would anybody need to go to a school which is 20 kilometers away when they can get the same level of education using technology, which can happen now? I think COVID has taught one thing to us. We didn't need so much of movement. Okay, so I think that's a very important learning we have had. It's important to relook at, I mean, if we can do things without moving, why were you moving? Why were we moving so much? So that's the first thing. I think it's a very big study which has to be taken up. What is the productivity which has gone down because of not moving? In terms of some of this thing, I think in some of the areas it has gone down in terms of livelihoods of people who would provide services to this mobile population. But otherwise, the people who themselves are moving have not actually lost any part of their knowledge exchange or work exchange, which would otherwise happen. Because many of us are white-collar jobs, and therefore you exchange data or this thing. Now we are doing a seminar. For the same seminar, if you had organized, I would have come to Hyderabad, spending so many thousands of rupees. And so, first of all, let us look at the transit and transport as a a service which should operate on when you're which should operate only if it is necessary, and it should be first. And the most best way to handle Indian transit system is, see, we cannot, with the kind of trips it happens in a city. I don't think I'm not saying nobody should move and all. I mean, please don't misunderstand that. I'm only saying, if COVID purpose has stopped us from moving and still work is happening efficiently to a certain extent, I think that much movement was preventable earlier. That's the first thing, first learning which comes up. Second thing I would like to say is, how do you plan your cities? If you take an area, it should be self-sustaining in itself for basic needs. Like your, it should be a multi-centric planning in a city. Unless you want to buy a particular level of stuff of a particular nature, you should not want to move to a different level. Second. The third thing is, with the technology, can we get the similar kind of health and education services delivered in suburbs and smaller cities, so that there is no huge outflow into the bigger cities? That's third thing which we look at. In fact, I think technology, I'm looking at on the other hand. I will come to the safe technology. I was asking, can't we look at, I mean, can there be a concept of school which is about, delivering knowledge which can be disjuncted? It's like your backroom processing. See, earlier office used to do everything. Today you have, even for an annual general meeting of a company, there's an event management company which specializes. It does it efficiently, including, putting people to ask the right questions at the right time. I mean, everything has been disaggregated. Why can't we disaggregate health and education using technology? Okay, so that the children don't need to travel, essentially, get tired carrying so many books to learn. They may travel out of their own volition for playing to a particular place, because everywhere we may not have the playgrounds. Even that should be provided in the neighborhoods. So I'm only questioning how much of travel can be taken out of the context, so that if you take out 50% or 30% of the transit on the public transit, which is not required, it itself will bring in efficiency, safety, and some sort of comfort. Today, buses will become available for the real necessary travel. So that's a very, very counterpoint I'm giving. I'm sorry, but I think it is very important to think from the other angle also. Second thing which I would say is, today there is a bus transit, and invariably we have 30 to 35,000 urban buses in whole of India, give and take. And that's why Uber is really serving so many people for their mobility. Similarly, a lot of other. If there could be a platform like Uber, you just create a Uberized platform and ask any person to log in with their vehicle without much of cost. That's what government should be doing. We have flagged this issue to NITI Aayog also, that we should create a platform where anybody can plug in and play in the same way as Uber provides a platform. Okay, but it should be completely available to anybody. My auto is there, my scooter is there, my car is there. If 30,000 buses are there, we need actually 1,10,000 buses in India to provide optimum level of transit, which is reliable, which is sustainable. So we will build up that bus. When we also need money, there's so much which has to be done. But so till then what? I mean, people even move today. They have invented ways of moving, but it is not integrated on a single platform. So there are so many inefficiencies. You know, it's an age where you can do anything concurrently. Unfortunately, none of our systems, like Uber has used it so well, the concept of concurrence, that you ask for the service and it is provided at that point. Okay, we can do the same thing. What is this route scheduling of buses? Why should anybody sit and schedule routes like that? It should be scheduled based on requirement. A small app, you press in and say, okay, this is my trip I want to go. If within 2 minutes, the computer algorithms work it out and say, okay, this route needs this many buses in the next this time. Lead time should not be more than half an hour. We can schedule that kind of trips. Somehow technology is moving ahead. We have the technology. Somehow there is parallel movement. There's no meeting point. So I think Uber kind of platform can come in where any auto person can log in. And any passenger who is traveling can access that auto person or a two-wheeler or a bus. And it should be benchmarked on standards of quality, safety, and charge. See, in India, you will find every level of charging, for which every level of person is available. So I think it could be a putt-putt, okay, or it could be a this thing. But can we make it more decent? Can we integrate a lot of vehicles which get just parked? It's about the mindset. Instead of thinking car as a status symbol, can it become just a vehicle of carriage? Then our objective will be achieved. So we need to, and I think that is happening. Many of the youngsters today don't want to buy cars. They're so happy with Uber or Ola or whatever. But what I'm saying is, can't we actually create an employment platform for cars owned and parked during the day? Today, Uber platform में कुछ लोग car लेके जा रहे हैं. But can we create a system where some office boy who is parking the car can rent out that car during the rest of the time? Can it be a flexi thing? Okay, and again, it should be, again, can it be also shared? There are so many possibilities. Like you are traveling on a bus. It can be so instant that the moment you get down and if you say, I want to go to X place where you have to walk 2 kilometers, there is an auto nearby. If that he gets a signal, he comes and picks you up for a charge. And if you are not able to afford, you can always, share it with somebody. So technology in mobility is still in a very nascent stage. Automatic vehicle positioning system, automatic fare collection systems are simplest things which can happen now. And another thing which I want to tell is today the buses think they are monopolies and the people are flocking into it. So they can stop here or they don't stop in stops, they will stop again, they will stop in the middle of road. Can we bring in a service orientation in the bus?
I think, no, yeah, I was just going to ask, since Dr. Tara has brought up like a lot of points here. So I was wondering I think I'll pass it to Prab first about how shared mobility providers and public transit authorities can work together and on some of the challenges which Ms. Tara just raised.
Thank you. Firstly,
Sorry, I thought it was a speech.
No. Firstly, I must compliment you, Ms. Tara. I think you very, very eloquently articulated the core premise and thesis on where technology can truly help transform urban mobility. I think thank you and kudos to you for having set the tone for that. I wholeheartedly anchor. I think the heart of it is solid urban planning, but keeping that aside, what you articulated is a need for us to, in India, to leapfrog need for private vehicle ownership. Today, after a house, a car is probably the second most expensive asset which somebody buys. And guess what? 95% of the time, as you articulated, it's sitting in a parking garage or occupying what used to be probably gardens near our houses. And there is no reason why we can't use technology to truly leapfrog this and not go down the way where, say, US has gone, where there are 800 cars per 1,000 people, while India still is sub 30. There's no reason for that to actually go in a higher order. And the core thesis, as you articulated, Ms. Tara, is using technology to drive efficiency. I think my view, having seen this journey over the last couple of years, is that we are at that inflection point where individually technology is beginning to optimize systems. So for example, technology is optimizing ride sharing between what Uber or Ola would be doing. Technology is optimizing high capacity vehicles where, say, shuttle is operating. Technology is beginning to optimize public transit individually. But this is a great chance and a window for us to start optimizing as a system, because that's where the magic will happen, because the consumers should actually be able to open, say, one app, or just with help of a mobile phone, be able to get from point A to point B and use every single mode. It could be a three-wheeler, it could be a bus, it could be a shared pool service from Uber, or it could be a two-wheeler bike taxi, depending on what their willingness to pay is and the trade-off and the convenience they need to make happen. And an app or an algorithm should recommend them which is the most optimal route to take and most efficient way to be able to articulate that. I think to me, that is the genesis of where eventual multimodal integration has to become a reality. In some small form at Uber, this is the vision which we are signing up for, truly becoming the operating system for urban mobility, where if we are very happy to be able to leverage our technology and learnings with other service providers and make sure we create that platform as what you described. Just to give you two minor quick examples and then let Madhavan pass it on to other panelists. One is, there's no reason why the same technology which we use as Uber for optimizing our fleet of vehicles cannot be deployed for optimizing existing fleets which Uber doesn't manage. So could that be a bus transit system? Could that be privately run 12 to 18-seater vehicles which are broadly available? And suddenly you are able to then create efficiencies on the fleet management side. And second is on the demand side, as you said, Ms. Tara, why is there a need to have fixed routes which often might be unviable? Could we have dynamic routing? Because technology can let us do that. You open the app, you press a button, there is an assurance that you will be dropped at to point B from point A within 27 minutes. Now, whether the bus takes a fixed route or a more dynamic route based on what the need of the hour is, that is something which the algorithm should determine. And we believe Uber's software as a service could allow something like that to happen. That's a vision which we are working towards. A second example of this is closer home. If we look at what's happened during the period of COVID. Now, during the lockdown, there was a broader ban on every kind of physical movement, so much so that even for emergency travel, there was a challenge for people to get around for things which were critical. And one of the solutions which we have tried to at that point pilot was what we call Uber Essential, which is again using technology. We could geofence in specific cities like Delhi, Bangalore, or Hyderabad, locations like hospitals, pharmacies, which by design will allow you to book a trip or end a trip only within these geofences. And suddenly you are then able to, while complying with what was the spirit of the lockdown, still enable essential travel to happen. So I fully reinforce, Mr. your point around technology is at a stage where we should be able to now truly deploy it at scale, both for individual optimization and the systems to talk to each other.
I have a point to make, if I'm allowed to make.
Sure,
I think mobility as a service, usko ek alag se dekhna nahi chahiye. We need to look at, for example, a person also travels to deliver something. Okay, see whether we can combine the passenger trips with goods trips which are the goods which can go with the passenger trips. These are very, very wide areas which are still unexplored by anybody. So I would request, I mean, we can do that. Like Big Basket or somebody who wants to deliver vegetables. You did not pick up for your own sake, or if that is going that, and there are nodes. So I think it's a mind-boggling possibility which is existing, which has not been embarked upon or even thought upon in a holistic manner anywhere. We may have been, I think in Bangalore, I heard they are doing that. They have tied up with Road Transport Corporation or something. Once you get down from the bus, there is a auto, some few autos, one startup, but that won't work that way. We need to create a platform which is very less costly, easily accessible, and everybody should get onto it with one click. जैसे हम कोई WhatsApp में आ जाते हैं वैसे it should happen. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna quickly pass to Mr. Vishwas here. And in addition to his comments on what has already been discussed, I would like to ask him also, what is the role that we can place technology in improving governance, like what you said about managing this whole transportation? How do you see governance of public transportation and technology play together, and maybe even larger at our urban planning stage?
Thanks, Mahadevan. I'll first start by thanking ma'am that you just got the core of the problem, that why should there be a movement. I mean, movement for leisure is understood, but running around getting stuff for your home, most of the time this stuff is also same. It's not that we are going out to decide. It's the same brand of items that I'm consuming every day, and I'm still going out to purchase those. Those trips are totally unnecessary. Going to offices, because the nature of offices pre-COVID has been that there is a need to be in office for collaboration, for overlaps, for discussions, and so on. Though all that is getting challenged now, but there was a need for travel, for people to move actually. Now, if we can challenge all those, that these long distance movements should not happen, the planning should be such that the kids are able to go to the school, which is so near that maybe parents can walk them to the school. My office is such that I need to go to office maybe once a week, and that too is maybe walking or a cycling distance away, and mostly I work from home. Those kind of things obviously could be something that future holds for us, and COVID teaches us. But for now, we are staring some problems that are in front of us, and we don't know how to solve that. For example, the planning of the cities, which are not done the way they should have been done. They have developed the way they organically developed. There are certain places where there are residential clusters, office clusters, and corporate clusters ended up developing far away. Gurugram ended up becoming a employment hub, and somewhere Noida became a residential hub. Delhi somewhere became a transit. So these are organic developments, and these are of such mammoth scale that it's almost impossible to undo it and then redo it. Now, while we are stuck with this problem, I think all the challenges of mobility, of transportation, goods movement, people movement is going to stay, and we will have to figure out ways to solve for them. And I also want to thank Prabjeet to kind of amplify the same voice that technology has an amazing opportunity, or let's say a responsibility to make things easier, simpler, more optimized, more let's say sequenced and scheduled. So I'll share some examples from shuttle that I have seen firsthand, where technology has played a role in improving safety, in improving efficiency, and then maybe I'll touch upon the governance bit. I'll be quick on that. So when we started with this model, what we realized is that there are many people moving to offices. Offices have a schedule, so there is a pattern to the mobility. There is a fixed time to which you need to be in office, more or less, and mostly people go to office almost every day a week, apart from vacations. If you take those percentages, you'll see that 90% times people are in office, rest 10% they are away. Now, because there is so much of pattern and predictability to it, we took this as a demand profile, and using that profile, we slotted it into routes, into timing, into schedules, into sizes of buses, into number of buses. And what we did was we tried to adapt to the predictable demand. People are moving every day. Can I help them move together instead of they breaking into different vehicles, or maybe picking their own vehicles? Can I club them together, offer similar kind of comfort, uh, and put them in a bigger vehicle and optimize the road, the space, the fuel, the emission, and do it in a more sustainable manner? That's the core of shuttle. That's what we did, and we were kind of very happy with the kind of results we saw. Now, another problem that cropped up. So this is about efficiency, technology delivering on efficiency after understanding the demand profile. Now came another efficiency problem, that buses are a bigger vehicle, and you need to be sure, because we offer a seat based offering, and uh, to ensure that everyone gets a seat, you need to ensure that only those people board the vehicle who have already reserved a seat in the vehicle, and that puts up a problem of authentication. Now, authentication, which is basically the name, the face, maybe the booking ID, all that takes a bit of time. And bus is a big vehicle. If it is stopping at a liquid point and those many people are boarding the bus, and for everyone there is authentication, driver, looks at the phone, at the face, and tries to authenticate. That takes too much of time. What we did was we implemented a simple technology named as Chirp, based on sound authentication. So every time a person boards the bus, all they have to do is press a button on their phone, on the shuttle app. The consumer app will emit a sound. The sound is unique to the bare ear. It will sound like a bird's noise, like a chirp, but it has a unique signature to it. And that unique signature is detected by the driver's phone. And within 4 to 5 seconds, the screen authenticates the passenger. Now, so this authentication earlier used to take close to 35 to 40 seconds. Sometimes when the phone is not working and all, screen is not visible and not at the right angle, it ended up taking maybe half a minute or maybe a minute. Now, all that got cut down to maybe 3-4 seconds. Now, at a liquid point, I am able to fill my 30-seater, 40-seater, 50-seater bus in a very short span of time. Now, this is, I think, another example where technology delivered on efficiency. And ma'am rightly pointed out that this is very early. There is so many sensors that can be put in technology. Location, the movement, three-dimensional, rotation, temperature, sound, camera, vibrations. These are so much of information that we can capture with the devices that people carry in their hand, like mobile phone or devices that can be implemented in the vehicle. And all this information can be triangulated to ensure safety, build profiles of the driver, build profiles of the passengers, build profile of the vehicle. And collectively, if you consider all these stakeholders, which is the person who's driving the vehicle itself as an asset, and the people who are actually using the vehicle, and then overall, let's say someday we'll be able to get the profile of the traffic, the regions which are more risky, the regions which are safe to drive at certain speed. If you converge all this, I think we can deliver very, very safe environment of travel. So this is another example which technology can deliver on safety big time. And we are at very nascent stage. We have to do a lot on this side. With respect to governance, I think right now what is happening is so if I take example of Uber, Ola, many more startups, what they have done is they have created use cases and examples, and they have created evidences that how technology can change things, transform things, disrupt the way things are working. And if all this can kind of data can aggregate in a safe, secure manner in the hands of the government, I think they can deliver uh, much more benefit to the citizens. So, for example, the ma'am was talking about, we are talking about movement of people. There is someone who is willing to send a parcel somewhere. If this data is available, we can aggregate all that together. and we can use the same asset to move that. So for example, in buses, there is a boot space, and it's just a big one. If the bus is doing a long distance travel, why can't that be used for logistics? And if you see, in traditional manner, it is being used in intercities, but in intracity, this is not so common, so popular. So these are the areas where we should explore how this authentic data can, help in governance. One example I wanted to touch upon on safety was that when we talk about, the people who are providing these services, uh, generally the safety becomes a concern. I'm not comfortable with the driver. I'm not comfortable, with an unknown person. I think those will start getting addressed when we'll start having records and authentication of people in a non-disputable manner. It's a very valid statement to make that severity of punishment doesn't deter crime. It is the certainty of the punishment that deter crimes. And certainty of punishment can only be when there is a evidence, there is a record of it. And technology can play a big role in making people accountable for how they behave in public spaces, how they behave in public transport, and so on, and making things and the entire ecosystem, safer for everyone. And as organizations, we can work with government in improving how the transport is managed, how the logistics is managed, how integration can happen, and it can play a big role in the governance as well.
Right. So I think Mr. Vishwas has highlighted some interesting points here. I wanted to quickly bring in Ms. Basu at this point, who is from the World Bank. And I want to ask her about her experience working with disruptive tech companies like Uber, Shuttle, etc. And how has that helped address problems which currently exist in the urban space, which we talked about, and how we can plug in at maybe at an earlier stage, at a planning stage. Ms. Basu, if you could.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, everybody, and I apologize for being invisible. Coming to a tech platform and not being able to get your video started is not a good thing. Anyhow, let me, before Madhavan, I answer your question, I want to start by addressing a lot of collective points that were brought up with a great example. Is there such a platform today in India, which is made in India, which has multiple modes, including passenger and freight, does optimization, has safety features, has allowed COVID operation to start? Yes, so far it was probably one of India's best kept secret, but not for long, particularly, the way it has allowed Metro to start operation under COVID. So this was sort of an innovation that I funded about 3 years ago in Kolkata, where I said that, look, we need to bring some efficiency in transportation. I need to know not just when a bus comes, I want to know when the bus is coming, do I get a seat in the bus? Sometimes buses come and you're waiting in the stop for a long time, you're unable to get in. If I get in and I get a seat, is it safe for me to travel? And when I get off the bus, what other mode of transport can I take? So with this concept in mind, I got one of probably India's best firms to design a product or a platform with an outstanding product called Pathadisha, which if you Google now, you will see how that has allowed Metro to start operation with its unique crowd control feature and dynamic booking. I'll talk about that algorithm in a minute. So essentially the platform, which has been branded, the name Pathadisha was branded by West Bengal government, but what it does is, it's a platform that integrates 7 different modes. It has buses, it has trams, it has taxis, it has ferries. It now will have a large EV fleet on it, private shuttles, as well as it is now going to be integrating freight. And this is hyperlocal freight, this is urban freight. What it does is, besides optimization, so on this platform, you not only know how to go, where to go, you can do your journey planning, you can do your booking. It also offers you choices. So it is not just, good enough for me to know how I should travel. It's a question of when I should travel. So it actually tells you what are some of the least polluting routes in the city, right? So when I decide to interact with the built environment, If I know that these are some of the high polluting routes and now pollution is high, I may decide, and I'm an asthma patient, I may decide, you know what, I'm not going to travel now. So I make a choice as to when I want to travel based on certain parameters. I can get into the details of the platform later on if you have more questions. It's something that I think everybody should look into because it's doing so well and solving a huge problem in mobility today. Now with COVID, what happened is, so one of the unique features this platform had was this crowd control and seat predicting ability. So with COVID, Metro came and said that, look, can you expand your crowd control system and design an algorithm with which I can have physical distancing while traveling. So they created a booking system, which is a color-coded booking system. It's the Railway Minister has been tweeting about it for the last few weeks because of its success. So you can, so once the booking system opens up, one can book it through 4 easy steps through a bot. It can be through your phone, it can be at the Metro site. You immediately know the OD pairs, who is traveling from where to where. Based on that, color-coded e-passes are issued. And we didn't want, although these are QR code-based, we didn't want QR scanners to be there in the stations, which would again cause queuing, right? So what we decided that, look, if you're going to be traveling from 8 to 9, you get a blue pass. You get into the station, you just hold it up. So it's optics. You don't have to wait in a queue because everybody knows between 8 to 9, if it's blue, you can enter the station. It has been an instant hit, and they are right now in talks with all the possible metros in India as well as Indian Railways to implement this. So again, some of the points that were brought up, yes, we are under talks with the government of West Bengal for the last couple of years, saying that, look, can you adjust your routes dynamically based on schedule, based on pollution? So let's say at 4 o'clock, the center city is high pollution. Can you now push in more buses there? The trouble is that the agility from the government is extremely low. They're unable to do that, right? An Uber can do it, but a government can't. It's like, moving a behemoth. There is also an issue of supply. You don't want technology to leap so far ahead that the supply is not there, right? Already Mrs. Tara said that, and we know from the work that we do in the World Bank, there's a massive shortage of buses today. India is still a country where 70% of the people travel on buses. So yes, technology is a lot of what what I heard should be done, could be done, is being done in this platform. So do take a look. Let's figure out how others can come in on this platform through an open data regime. Again, something that we keep telling the government: open up your data, guys. If you open it up, entrepreneurship will happen. That's a big challenge that we face. So yes, when there is such a platform, it would be good to see, with all of the entrepreneurs that are here today, that how can this be replicated? How can you take it to more and more cities? How can an Uber and an Ola and a shuttle come together and work on expanding this? Freight's already there. We are now talking to the port to see how can trucks come into this. But there are governance issues. We need to talk to government about opening up the data. That's a big challenge. When data opens up, like I said, automatically many things are going to happen. So I'll stop there. So the bank's role is one is to foster innovation. And the reason I wanted to give this example is that a small innovation that we did could scale up and was taken up by the private sector. So I'll stop there and happy to answer questions later on.
Right. So a quick plug-in to the audience watching. Please ask questions in the tab. We will be taking them post the discussion. So in continuing Rakhi's point, I want to ask the panel, and especially Rama and Prab and Vishwas, everybody here, how different stakeholders can come together to deliver on some of these problems that we face, and encourage startups to look at these problems. Like, how do you think startups can play a role in bridging these problems and encouraging these solutions in India specifically?
Well, sorry to interrupt. What is the name of the app and platform that was we talked about of Kolkata?
So the company who designed it is called Ideation Technology, and the app or the platform, the app's called Pathadisha. They haven't named their platform, and they're actually now thinking of taking the product and doing a startup. It's absolutely fantastic. So please take a look.
Rama, if you would like me to repeat the question.
No, thanks, Madhav. I think I'm kind of, thanks for having me. I think pretty passionate discussion. So I really enjoyed hearing all of that. I'll take a slightly different, I'll get to your question if you don't mind, but I think we obviously talk about a lot of issues and things that obviously, government can look at, do what they are doing, right? And I think the big elephant in the room today is obviously safety with respect to COVID and pandemic. And I think a lot of the owners, fall back on the principles, people who are running the show, people who run whatever they have to run. I mean, we do it at T-Hub, which is the largest incubator in the country. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I thought I'll just kind of lay it out there for people who don't know. That I think the three things that I really love what Uber has done during this is kept aside a huge chunk of money, almost $50 million, for buying masks, sanitizers, and a lot of stuff for their drivers. So I think kudos. I mean, I have not heard of many companies will do that. So I think it is one thing is about talking. The second thing is about really doing something. Second thing I really appreciate what you guys have done is partnering with Clorox. I mean, for somebody like Uber, you would kind of partner with mobility, with innovation, with all of the things that you can guess. But partnering with somebody like Clorox goes on to tell that the importance that the organization is attached to all things which are health, sanitation, hygiene centric. The third thing I really loved is feeding the first responders, people, healthcare workers, people who need to kind of get their travel in place, giving them free food, things like that, which typically doesn't get talked about or which doesn't come out, right? I mean, we all talk about mobility, we talk about all the things, the challenges and stuff like that. But that's a phenomenal thing. And last, obviously, taking care of the driver members. Obviously, we all talk about our customers, that customers need to be safe. What can you do for them? But taking care of your own employees, the drivers, people who come from middle and lower economic segment, taking care of them and ensuring that they are as safe as the customers and ourselves. It goes on to tell the culture that the organization has built. And no wonder that myself being a huge fan and a customer of Uber, along with millions of people worldwide, these are things that stand out to me first as an organization, and then comes the layering of tech. Tech obviously is again, we need to have a separate panel for that to talk about the tech, the user experience, the touch points, and how easy it is. This is something that it was interesting. I was talking to the Ola CXO team, and I told them I tried using Ola, but I was just kind of plumbed by the Ola money transfer and then pay through all of that. So I don't use and I use Uber. So telling something on their face takes something, right? And I was just paying real there. So I think those are things I thought we should also touch upon, given all the other things that we are discussing here. And today I think all of us are in the same boat or in the same camp. With respect to issues related to mobility, transportation, safety, and still how we need to get on with our life, how we need to kind of get on doing things, move from place A to place B for whatever we are doing. And I think unless all the stakeholders come together, and also obviously government regulators really help all the players, I don't think we can kind of go a long distance. So I think these discussions and panels are very important, that all stakeholders coming together, looking at it. And now I'll kind of also insert the answer for the question, Mahadevan, that you asked. That startups is obviously a key part and integrant to all of this. We support our startups a lot at T-Hub, obviously being the largest innovation outpost in the country. We obviously do a lot of programs. We have done things virtually and digitally today, whatever, if the life throws you a lime, make a lemon, right, out of it. So we have kind of stuck to it, and we obviously did what we preached to our startups. So obviously startups are building a lot of new age COVID devices. There is a lot of innovation that they are doing themselves in terms of product services, but also in their journey of being alive and being relevant to their customers. So we do a bunch of things, and they obviously are a key ingredient or one of the wheels to solve the problem that we all are talking about. And we are just happy that we are playing a small part in this whole thing. And thanks for having the discussion and for having the chance to kind of speak here. So I'll just kind of stop there and let the wheel go around so others can chime in as well.
Actually, we have a question from our audience, and I think it's mostly for you. And if anybody else is willing to answer, I guess that's great too. And the question is, how willing and open is the government to use blockchain for tech innovation? I guess we can add your mobility here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get this question earlier, but anyways, I'm going to take a shot at that. So, so I think governments are trying to kind of look at blockchain and various use cases. Blockchain has many of us know is a distributed ledger with a whole bunch of security parameters with identity protection, and it kind of gives a way that you can bring in multiple stakeholders into the equation. Some of the use cases that the government have really lapped it up is in terms of like getting clarity with respect to land ownership, ensuring that the farm produce, and the biggest thing has been like things like DBT, like transfer of money from government agencies to is it reaching the right stakeholders, is it reaching to the farmer base who are supposed to benefit from it. I think blockchain plays a role as a technology layer, and obviously it is like opaque for people who are using it. Governments are at it, but as whoever asked the question can understand, it is still a technology, right? I mean, right now we are trying to solve what is the real problem. Today, obviously, we are all kind of clouded by COVID and its after impact or its current impact whenever it ends. So blockchain has obviously been one of like other tech has taken a hit, and it will be used as the need is. But I think today people are talking about blockchain and how do you trace vaccine traceability for the complete journey to ensure that it is at the right temperature when it is delivered to the stakeholder, including us, and also ensuring that the large populace get vaccinated properly. I think those are use cases that government is looking at with respect to blockchain in the current scenario. Yeah, anybody else please add on?
I guess not. I would like to ask the larger panel if what is the one thing you see is the next technology for you guys when you look at urban mobility? What are you looking ahead to? What is the next thing in the urban mobility space that you're looking at, which you think will be a game changer?
I think I can take that. I think the two ideas which I'm very keenly watching, I think these are not out there 20 years out, etc. I think I'm very much focused on what can be done in the current scheme and what current technology can support. I think goes back to the idea. One of them was which Ms. Thara mentioned, which is how do we leverage technology at scale to use private vehicles which are already available in the ecosystem. I think while overall we have made as a country a lot of progress on technology deployment in mobility, we have still siloed out what would be considered and called as for use of commercial purposes, what is used for private. I think if we truly want to be able to solve the issues of congestion, we need to converge these and remove this artificial separation. If there are enough vehicles on the road, there we have also a challenge of livelihood creation. What will it take for us to be able to get these spare vehicles in the hands of people who are willing to drive and then drive them where to consumers who actually require that? I do believe there is an opportunity to encourage thereby the private vehicle ride sharing in a meaningful way, obviously with safeguards on safety and technology. And I would look to forward-looking state governments, for example, or partnerships with T-Hub, etc., in states like Telangana to really pilot out some of these under regulatory sandboxes. I think the second big innovation, which is really about rather than doing something crazy new big innovation, just getting the systems to work together. So for example, when recently we launched Hyderabad as a second city after Delhi, where you can open the Uber app and see public transit routes like either Hyderabad Metro or Delhi Metro or Delhi buses on the Uber app. What will it take for us to start integrating with existing systems in a more meaningful manner to the kind of examples which Ms. Basu mentioned upfront, and do it at scale, right? Or take existing innovations of the kind which was mentioned and truly take them mainstream in a very, very meaningful way. I think so. I'm a little bit more focused on the pragmatism of what can be done in the current scope with the safeguards and the frameworks which exist.
Right. I think in the whole discussion as well, we have sort of arrived at basically two separate lines of problems that we have. One is what Ms. Tara talked about in planning, where we need to talk about reducing the commute. And the second one being planning. Okay. This next lane is the what we can do in the existing solutions and existing cities where these problems are already there, which I think everybody's touched upon. Uh, I would like to now ask Sandhya to sort of bring out the startup. We have someone from Uton Energia who will be making a pitch to the panel.
Sorry to the panel and the audience. I think the startup has cancelled. So if there are any more questions, we are open to take that.
I think as the questions are coming, maybe I'll just add to what Prab mentioned. I think the way I'm looking at it, there would be a new class of, or a lot more newer classes of vehicle that will get added to the whole urban mobility jigsaw puzzle. I think like, ULU, right? Like, things which are like, closer to the curb, gated community, extended periphery, and getting you to like, a lot of hub and spoke. So I think there'll be a lot of new classes of vehicles and urban mobile gears, machinery that will be out there in terms of transportation. And I think there's a great opportunity for Uber to connect some of those dots where a single mega app, I can do a bunch of things, right? Including obviously like, ordering something to eat while I do all of this multimodal communication end to end. So I think I see that like, we kind of graduating into that phase. And while I do that journey, if there are people who tag along, can I do meaningful discussion with them? Can I collaborate with them based on interest, ideas, hobbies? Obviously that is like, the next level of thing. I mean, this is something I every time I take a flight, I'm sure there is somebody here or set of people who would love to collaborate, or there is a startup out there, or if I'm a startup, I'd like to pitch to someone. But just that we don't know, right? And this is not very hard, given like, we build technology, there is so much tech out there. These are spaces and time where you can do collaboration to the hilt, but I think we are missing out on that. So those are a lot of like, white spaces out there. And these to me are extended part of the urban mobility thing, where we kind of travel, use a lot of end-to-end things. So those are things, my thoughts that I thought I'll just kind of pour it out there for anybody to kind of react or add on.
Totally. I think that's very interesting. I'll just add one small bit to the question of Madhavan, that I think still there is a lot of mobility that is happening offline. I think that's one thing that we all, I think because we are in digital space and tech, we all are convinced that is going to solve big problems. Somewhere they should have a flavor of tech, why they are offline, why those transactions are offline, what are the challenges there. I don't know, 2G, 3G, whatever. We need to figure out a way to bring those transactions from offline to online in some or the other manner and add value. I think that should be a collective problem. It increases the pie for everyone. It increases data. It brings more, let's say, opportunities for innovation. So I think that should be one area that we all should collectively focus, that how we can make, if you talk about all the mobility, I think the percentage is way higher that is happening offline. If we can work towards that, that would be one of my interest areas, and not as a company, but as a tech player in mobility, I would want to see this space, attacking that.
Does anybody have questions at this point?
I think we are done with the kind of questions. Most of them have been addressed already. So
Okay,
yeah, I
great.
think we're good.
All right. So as we were saying that I think we've basically come up with two problems. One is to solve for existing issues with cities, and the other being for as we look to plan new cities. And I think Vishwas also is raised, and I think Prab and Tara ma'am, everybody sort of agrees that we kind of need to build a wider platform and bring more transportation online and more digitized and have maybe a e-hail sort of a system where more of us take trips on platforms. I think that sort of improves safety as well. So I think that's where I'd like to stop this discussion. Thank you all so much for joining the panel, and thank you for your inputs today. It's been a great to have you all.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. One more thing, everyone, the feedback form will be given to you all right after this webinar. So please do fill it up. Thank you.